Hello everyone, my name is Dr. Asad and welcome back to this series of Python for everyone. I'm super excited because we have covered almost everything about loops except for list comprehension. I personally love list comprehension because it gives you a flexibility to make list without any trouble, and you could do that in one line of code. So let's just see what it actually means. Let's say I wanted to create a list from another list. Let's say again, my long list was numbers from, I don't know, maybe -1, 2, 3, and another negative. Let's throw it there, and then maybe 10 or even 100. Who cares, right? So let's say this was my list with a lot of positive and negative, and I wanted to create another list using this list. Let's say I wanted to create a list of all the negative numbers in that list. How would I do that? Well, first thing that I would have to do, a long method, would be, if you remember, you could add things to your list using append. If you're unsure, please refer back to the video. So all I have to do is make a new empty list, which would be simply a list there. And then I'll say, using my for statement, for each number in long list, if that number is less than 0, which means it will be negative, then maybe just use the new list and append that number to it. Otherwise, just continue, right? So, and then let me just print that new list to see how it works. Did it work or did it not? Let's run that. You see, the new list contains negative numbers, but I think I went a bit too quicker, so let me just repeat that slowly. I wanted to create another list with all the negative numbers in this big list, right? For that, what I did was I created another empty list, and then I'll need a for loop to fill it up. So let's go for the first line. This is saying for each number in a long list, which is -1, 2, 3, 3, -5, 100, and -200, right? It goes to the very first statement, which is if number is less than 0. Now, what does that do? That checks whether your number is positive or negative. Let's go for the very first number, the -1. It is less than 0, right? So this condition is met, which means this if statement will work. And what is that if statement doing? It is appending, which means adding that number which was negative to my new list, which I just made before that for loop. So it will take -1 and add it there. We already covered this append in the last videos or when we were doing the list. So if you're unsure, please refer back to those videos. If this condition is not met, which means if the number is not negative, then just simply continue. Don't do anything. So it will ignore 2, ignore 3, and then this -5 will be appended to new list. Remember, append, just keep adding the number in the end. Ignore this 100 and then -200, append it. And continue like that for all positive numbers. And then finally what I did was I printed my new list. So if I run that code, it successfully did that. But when you're working on a big code and you keep have to doing that, it's just taking too much space. So let's translate all of these information into one single line. So let's say I want to create my new list again, right? And this time I'm using maybe comprehension. So let's say name it something different, so just to see the results. I'll start my list. Now let me break it down for you. The first thing you do is that for loop, which is for number in long list. Now you don't have to add any semicolon or anything like that, but just for sake of visualization, I'll show you what I'm doing. Then it comes the condition part. The condition is if that number is less than 0, which means it is negative. Now, rather than writing in the very end, all I'll do is just write number here. Now, let me explain that what it is doing. It is already creating a list by these square brackets. So I don't have to do this part, which is appending it into a new list because it is already a list. I started with a for loop, right? Which is for numbers in long list and no semicolon, nothing else. All I do is provide the condition, which is if number less than 0. Now, when that number is 0, put that into the list. As simple as that. And why it is one line? Because I can write all of this in one line with that space. So it normally consists of 3 parts. 1, the for loop. Second, the condition. And lastly, what should I add to that particular list? In this case, I just wanted to add the number. So let me print this new and see, did it work or did it not? So there you go. If you notice, both are exactly the same. So I was managed to do all of these tasks using one single line. This is what it is called comprehension. Let's say instead of doing the negative numbers, I wanted to add positives. As simple as that. Change this to positive, change this to positive, and run this code. But what if I wanted to add not just the positive, but the square of that positive? In this big one, I had to do more than one thing. I would have to create another number, which is new number. Remember, if that number is greater than 0, which means it is positive, is equal to number, which is that positive number, and times 2, which becomes the square of it. Now, rather than adding the positive number, I'll add it new number to it, right? So what I'm trying to do is, let's say if that number is 2, I don't want to add 2 here. I want to add 4, which is 2 times 2. If it is 3, I don't want to add 3. Rather, I want to add 3 times 3, which is 9. So when I found if it is a positive number in this case, I don't want to add that number, but I wanted to add the square of that number. So I made that into a new number and then added that new number into a list. See, I had to do one more line to it. That makes it even more complicated. But for this list comprehension, this statement is still true, right? For number in that long list, yes, true. The condition, if number is greater than 0, is still true. Yes, I'm still checking positive numbers. Now, rather than adding number, can you just square it? That's all. That's all I had to do in the list comprehension. So if you see, 2 times 2 is 4, 3 times 2 is 9, 100 times 100 is 10,000. So I know at the very start, I found it very difficult, the list comprehension, but once you get used to it and you practice it, this is the most easiest thing and most lifesaver, because think about it. You need this instead of all of this. So this is what we do, list comprehension. Go on, pause the video and see if you managed to do it. Well done to those who managed to do it. For those who could not, don't worry, place the comment and let's debug it together. Till then, take care guys, keep practicing and I'll see you in the next video.